It's the Final Word Daily, brought to you by McInnes Whiskey. I'm Cameron Ponsonby. I'm joined once again, a long-awaited reunion, by Daniel Norcross. But before we get into today's action, today's play, today's 30 seconds, Daniel, why is it me and why is it you here? Where's Jeff? Where's Adam? Please explain.
I'll tell you where they are. They are helping to improve the lives of literally tens of thousands of disabled and disadvantaged children around the country by running with a whole bunch of Final Word listers and supporters around Edinburgh. They're doing thousands of kilometres. Jeff is doing 10K, which is an incredible
That is
achievement.
1,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's like him doing 10K is like me doing 500. It's extraordinarily tough. Adam himself, of course, will be leading the charge, and they're hoping to raise lots and lots and lots of money. The link is in the show notes. Get onto it, because we understand there's a little bit of charitable giving fatigue by this stage of the year. There's been a lot of it going on through the new year and similar, but these are our people and they need our support. And the Lawyers Tavern is just one of the great charities. It's not just a cricket charity, but it's a charity that helps to improve social cohesion and the lives of young people all around the country. And if you can just dig into those pockets ever so slightly, we'd all be so enormously grateful.
You're so sincere when you're talking about charity. It's amazing. I've never heard you mean anything so much.
No, well, I mean, not normally about charities, but I do feel like this about the Lawyers Tavern.
Well, if you can maintain such sincerity in summarising today's play in 30 seconds of day 2 of the England-Zimbabwe Test match at Trent Bridge, 30 seconds in 3, 2, 1, over to you.
The day began with half the population believing that Zimbabwe had proved why they should never be allowed to play Test cricket against teams that are good. By halfway through the day, the other half of the population was absolutely convinced that half of the population were outrageous scumbags who should keep their opinions out of cricket. And then in the second half of the day, the first half of the people were vindicated, they think, by the events that turned out as Zimbabwe came to the fore and then crashed and burned.
Wonderful. Why don't we focus on the positives to begin with? There's a man called Brian Bennett who opened the batting for Zimbabwe today, and he got 100 and lots. To be precise, he got 139. Now, in the whole kind of grand scheme of things, where this match needed some backbone, some quality from Zimbabwe to just kind of quell some mutterings about whether this was a waste of time and what we're doing this for, he batted beautifully for a century, the fastest Test century in Zimbabwean history. He cut the ball away off Atkinson to kind of, and was, do you know what I really like? I like when someone's celebrating their 100 before the 100th run is scored. They're on 99, the ball's sliced away. They know they're going to get there. Big cheer through the stump mic, big cheers in the crowds. It was, I think, the moment of the day.
I would say it was the moment of the day, and it was the innings of the day, and it might yet be the innings of the summer. It was truly, well, because of what was on it, Cam, because you've got to put it into the context. Yesterday, there was a lot of miserableism knocking about, and there was a lot of, we built you up, you Zimbabweans. You said you were playing 11 tests this year and all this kind of stuff. And then yesterday, you bowled like drains. And now thinking about it, you lost to a county second 11. And whatever were we doing thinking of asking you here? You've even let 2 of England's most out-of-form batters of all time score hundreds. It's just a disgrace. And when he went out to bat after England had smashed 60-odd in 8 overs in an act of sort of sadism, really, best glossed over. Harry Brook got a half-century.
We will actually gloss over that. That was kind of Schrodinger's cricket. It didn't exist.
I think I tend to agree. The main event was, are England going to bowl them out for 85? Josh Tongue, Sam Cook, nibbling it here and there, not to mention Gus Atkinson, Shoaib Bashir, Ben Stokes. They're a cut above, surely. And although it is true that they largely were for the other 10 Zimbabwean batters, for Gordon Bennett, otherwise known as Brian, and also called Brian Blessed by Mark Butcher today on Sky Cons at one point. He said he was Brian Blessed through the offside because he was blessed through the offside. He drove and carved and cut. He didn't actually ride that much luck. There was a drop catch by Root, wasn't there? And yeah, there was the odd edge here and there, especially at the beginning, actually, against Sam Cooke, who started well, but his figures looked a bit ugly. But then he grew into this knock and played some of the most sumptuous shots. There were a couple down the ground that, do you know what? They were so good, and this whole innings was so good, that what you often see happening mostly in 1970s films and sitcoms, when something, physically very pleasurable has happened to someone, is that they lie in bed and they light a cigarette. And that's what I'm going to do, because it was so good.
You're having post-drive cigarettes.
I'm having post-Brian Bennett cigarette. That's what I'm having. It was that good. It was just a surprise, I think, because most of us are ignorant. Let's face it, we're ignorant. And he's 21, and we thought, well, here's another one. It's just going to come and go. And instead, he dominated.
Well, let's just give a bit of colour to kind of Zimbabwe's innings, in that I think the best way to describe it is actually before it went bad, basically, was they were 156 for 2 after 32 overs. They were going at 5s. Sam Cooke's first over went for 12. We'll get on to Sam Cooke in a bit. But I got a message from a friend going like, brilliant, yes. Like Zimbabwe are giving it back to the lads here, basically. And Trent Bridge, yesterday, part of the reason England scored 500 was because of that golfing class. But part of the reason they scored 500 is because the outfield is an ice rink. And if you tap the ball, you get 4. There were no fielders.
The boundary is 35 metres at one point, it feels like. I mean, I know it isn't, but it's like when you have those nightmares when you're a captain and you go out to set the field and you realise you're doing it on a tennis court. That is sometimes how Trent Bridge... Oh, do you know how to get that one?
I've never had that one in my life, no.
Oh, I have that one a lot. It's like, how the hell? Where am I going to put the fielders? The angles are all a disaster. There's that terrifying angle at Trent Bridge. And yeah, you're right. It just looked like what they were doing was proving that this was Test cricket on a road. And it gave me a thought. Back in would it be the 50s? New Zealand were granted some Test matches by England.
Well, that's very nice of them.
But they made them exceptionally short. They might even have been only 3 days, I think, much like is happening here with a 4-day test. The difference is that New Zealand blocked their way to the most tedious draws imaginable, as if to say, give us 5 days and you might beat us. Whereas Zimbabwe looked like they were going, well, we can draw with you doing baseball. We'll go at 5 and over and draw. How'd you like them apples? Well, and it was chaotic, wasn't it? It was chaotic. And also there was the fear, because anything that happens in this test match from an England point of view cannot be positive. Either the 100 scored are meaningless, but now mean that poor old Jacob Bethel can't get back in the side, or someone's going to have to be dropped who's just scored a ton, and that will feel wrong, morally wrong. Or if the bowlers don't bowl them out really quickly and go at 5, 6 and over, the bubble is burst. Atkinson's no longer a good cricketer, despite having been brilliant all through last year with 100, a 5 for, a 10 for, and a hat-trick. No, he's rubbish. Oh, and Josh Tongue, he's going at 5.5. We thought he was going to win the Ashes. Well, he obviously can't, because a Zimbabwean has hit him for 4. And that was kind of the tone at the time. Panic was coming coursing through English cricket for about an hour and a half.
And what's also really unfair on the batters who have scored centuries is if Zimbabwe scored loads of runs, that doesn't then make their runs count anymore. It makes their runs count even less, because like, even these lads are getting it. I want to note one more moment on Bennett's innings, because it was the most beautiful on drive of Atkinson that took him to 99. And I was watching back over the highlights before doing this, and I saw the clip of it, and I'd seen it at the time, but when I went, why is that in the highlights package? Because he just defends the ball to mid-on, back down the ground. And then you go, oh my goodness me, he's timed that so beautifully. And it's beaten everyone. It's rolled past Atkinson. The outfield's an ice rink, as we've already said. And it ran away for 4. And you thought that was a shot of real class, a real moment of kind of cricketing elegance and joy. But
I'll tell you how good that shot was. You're the 5th person to have said that to me today.
Really?
So,
well, the reason we do the show is insight.
Well, it's good because it's a universal truth. That shot was a universal truth of goodness. And that's Yas Rana. When I say people, I mean, the Mark Ramprakases and Yas Ranas of this world in the same sentence.
Yas Rana is a very dear friend of mine. A batter he is not, and so I've really enjoyed those two being in just next to each other, similes, rubbing up next to one another. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. Right. I don't know. Let's talk about these bowlers who either did or don't count, depending on how well they did. I'm going to start. You know what? Let's just brush over Gus Atkinson and Ben Stokes to begin with. So Atkinson struggled for rhythm early on. It was a bit of a like, oh, is this really working? But by the end, he was looking quick. He's nabbed a wicket at the end of the day as well when he's got Bennett for the second time in a day. We'll mention that. Final words, Hall of Fame stuff. But I think all in all, he's a known quantity at this point. Move on. Ben Stokes, really encouraging. He only got 9 with the bat at the start of the day. He was probably the only batter who actually kind of failed, if that makes sense. In that he got bumped out by Muzur Abani, who did bowl well.
They all failed because they didn't break the world record.
That's a good point. Sorry, thank you, Dan. I'm glad. Thank you for clarifying. Stokes got 2 wickets, bowling quick. Got Madavera with like a big in swinger and a Sikandar Raza with an away swinger. Like fantastic. That bodes well for his kind of recuperation and rehabilitation. So that leaves us with the unknown quantities in debutant Sam Cook, Josh Tongue, first match in 2 years, and Shoaib Bashir, who is coming to his day of reckoning, basically. And so we're going to start with Bashir. I really enjoyed when he came into the attack on Sky Comms. I would say Nasser Hussain was laying the groundwork for putting the boot in. He basically explained why it was acceptable to be mean about Shoaib Bashir from this day forth. And he was like, he's no longer the kid who's been plucked out of nowhere. He's got 15 tests behind him and 49 wickets in to be sniffed at. But we got to see some improvements. Lo and behold, first ball Bashir bowls, massive fully, full toss 4, and you're like, oh my God, like is this the beginning of the end? Is Nasser ready to go now, basically? But then Shoaib Bashir showed why, in my opinion at least, England have been investing in him and why so many of these anecdotes about him from players who face him in the nets all line up in the same direction of when it clicks, they get it. Because his 3 wickets today, you got Irvine, Williams and Seager, 3 fantastic off-break deliveries, spinning sharply, dipping. Are we, having just said all those things, immediately back to square one? And in the Zach Crawley hyperloop, where he's done these really good things, but does it count? Does it count, Daniel? Does anything count? Does anything matter?
Well, it's very hard to say, isn't it? Because in this test match, if you assume that every run that an England batter scores is worth 10 runs of a Zimbabwean, because it's deemed that way. So, Pope this morning got out for 17.1, because that's pretty much, I mean, Stokes actually got 0.9 on that basis, yeah. But which is quite the effort. It's why he is the world beater that he is. Absolutely. On that basis, Shoaib Bashir took 3 for 620, which don't look like good figures, do they? They don't look like good figures. But you're right. You've got to read between the lines. And yeah, the other thing you said there is absolutely correct. Filling in some of the details, they were the 3 archetypal off-spinners dismissals, weren't they? The bowled to the right-hander through the gate, the caught left-hander at slip, and bowled the left-hander off stump. So he's kind of produced the balls that you want him to produce. And the beautiful thing about an off-spinner in a way is that the wickets that they take, you can kind of see whether they would do for other batters. Now, possibly the one that goes through the gate is the one that, not a gift, but was a little bit softer. The other 2 were absolutely classics of the genre. Then you have to ask yourself, did he have control? And when there was, 4s going around and Brian Bennett was batting really beautifully, he does go at under 4s in taking those 3 wickets on what we have already said is a road of pitch. It really is. And a lightning fast outfield where people are going at 5 and over. So I think he's done as much as you can hope he can do, but it's all done with the caveat that I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. When he plays the first test match against India, All the
I don't
same
agree with
people
that.
thinking the same things are going to say the same things.
I think I agree with that bit. I agree. It doesn't change anyone else's opinion about Bashir or Crawley or Pope, but I think it changes their opinion of themselves.
Oh, well, it might do, but I'm not a mind reader.
Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot about that bit. I think you have this is not a no-win situation where you can only fail. Bashir, in this instance, will feel much better for his performance today, and he'll be sat down in the changing room afterwards going like, that's why I'm here. That's why they're picking me, because I can bowl proper off breaks. I can be a test spinner. I am a test spinner. And away we go. Do you know who else is a test bowler?
Yeah.
Sam Cook. We're going to have to do these bits quickly.
One for 720 he took.
One for 700. The worst figures in test history.
Yes. According to the metric merchants. Look, he got his first Test wicket, and he beat the bat on numerous occasions and conceded quite a lot of his 72 runs in 17 overs off edges. So I think he did what you would hope a bowler like him to do, to bowl like that on that kind of a wicket, which has been a nightmare for all bowlers, not just his type of bowler.
Statistic for you, which I'm sure you're across. He is the first bowler to bowl the opening over of an innings on his debut for England since...
Oh, it's not... Wait a minute. It's not James Kirtley, is it?
No, wrong. That's just the wrong answer. The answer is Martin McCague in 1993. I'm going to be on Stan. I've got a second question.
Who was he?
Who's Martin McCague?
I'll tell you exactly who Martin McCague was. He was an Australian-born and Australian-sounding fast bowler from Kent, and he was put into the England team because there was this fantasy notion, which has been going on for quite a long time, that you need to send big fast bowlers to Australia to win games. And the way to frighten Australia was to use fast bowlers and to use their own bowlers on themselves. So being an Australian, basically, who was
ones that they haven't picked,
he was picked against an Australian side that thrashed us in '89 and was in the process of thrashing us again. By us, I mean England, them, in 1993. So that's who Martin McCague was. And took a lot of wickets at county level. So, and he was quite brisk, but he did get a fair bit slower. You're quite little steps, tiny little steps as he ran in. Not a great big delivery stride. I could go on.
Please don't. Genuinely stop. I prefer
you did ask.
Right. Sam Cook. Early signs. Yep, fine. Tick, pass. First over went for 12, but there were a few edges. Ben Curran was his first wicket. Great celebrations. Great moment. Josh Tongue bowling quick. Bowling really, really quick. Although he was expensive, as we've deduced and concluded many times about today's and this week's match, there are no fielders at Trent Bridge. They don't exist. All bats on ball goes for runs. Josh Tongue, still 2 thumbs up. I think he's going to play a lot of cricket for England this summer. Right. Should we go for a break? We've got a show to finish.
I just think McInnes whiskey is a great idea, and I want everybody to support it. Is that too much to ask?
No. Well, if you're going to decide to Lord's Tabs, McInnes whiskey, just get your cash out. That's fine. We don't ask you for much for this show. Hall of Fame. You go first.
Well, it's completely obvious to me what the Hall of Fame is for me, which is fortunate since I'm about to tell you what it is. And for me, more than anything, it's obviously Ollie Pope's unbelievably brilliant diving catch. And I'll tell you for why, but in a test match that no one believes is a test match, in a Schrodinger's test, as you were saying, like we had Schrodinger's back end of the innings, it's Schrodinger's test, and that was Schrodinger's wicket. It was
lovely.
Simultaneously one of the great short leg catches you could hope to see, and also it wasn't, because it was a no ball. And it's kind of really what this game is all about. It's about highs and lows and everything being punctured by Mother Cricket and her evil vicissitudes. She's a cruel mistress. She brings tears to your eyes and blood to your shoulders.
Well, I had Ollie Pope's catch down as well. So I think that's a fine way to bring day 2 to a close. This has been the final word. I've been Karen Ponsonby. Daniel Norcross has been Daniel Norcross. Put those hands in those wallets. Donate to the Lord's Tabs, and then when you feel good about yourself for donating to the Lord's Tabs, buy yourself a big cask of whiskey. There we go. Invest in it.
For Cam.
Thank you. Right, we're done. See you and speak to you again very soon. Goodbye.
Bye.